We had a conversation a couple weeks ago about your history with the plant, and I feel like not a lot of people truly understand why you got into cannabis. Can you share a little bit about your history with cannabis?
Sure. I'm a DARE graduate from the Nancy Reagan era here in New York, and cannabis was never considered medicine. I am a former pediatric nurse, and I discovered the plant by accident after I suffered a life changing work injury while working as a pediatric nurse. A child became combative for a vaccine, just a routine shot, and my life changed in less than a second. He ended up hitting me in the head. I bounced off a wall and back into his head. And life as I knew it was over. I literally didn't recognize who I was in the mirror anymore because I had such a profound change in my cognitive abilities, my chronic pain. I didn't even know what that was, even being a nurse. Until it really happens to you, Tommy, it's really difficult to understand. And even as a compassionate caregiver and everything, I could not relate to those people that said they were always in pain. I just couldn't. Like, I'm like, how can you even live if you're in that much pain? I live with it now and I understand that. And cannabis became a vehicle for me to get off 16 different pharmaceuticals that each one had a more horrific effect than the previous one. And I became hyper allergic to all kinds of different substances, including prescription pills. And I would go into anaphylaxis on a very regular basis. And that is some really next level scary stuff. And I just was feeling totally hopeless. Like there was no hope left for me. My husband, in a desperate effort to try and cheer me up, ended up sending us to Las Vegas. I'm a former casino dealer, so Vegas was always my place to go, unwind, have a good time. On this particular vacation, there was no vacation about it. I was in way too much pain. I couldn't handle any kind of overstimulation. And my life had become one of living in the corner in dark rooms and just trying to sleep, do anything I could, and take all these pills. I had had it, and I ended up going out on my balcony on the Cosmopolitan Hotel in Vegas and getting ready to take my life. I looked down the pool areas 3 stories below. I'm like, oh, that's perfect. You can't even kill yourself right. You're just going to screw yourself up more. And then I look out on the strip, and as I look out, a mobile billboard comes cruising by advertising, get your medical marijuana card in Nevada today. And that was profound. But then it came back a second time. After going through this Nancy Reagan era, my son having been arrested for a felony for growing cannabis, I was not necessarily rah rah, cannabis is going to help you with a brain injury. I had the diagnosis of chronic pain, traumatic brain injury, and anxiety and depression. Well, in my mind, the first thing I saw was Nancy and the egg in the frying pan saying, your brain on drugs. And all I could think of is my brain's already on drugs. How much worse can it be? So I mentioned to my husband, and there began my medical journey with cannabis.
What was your first experience with cannabis?
Well, the now I had had cannabis at like social gatherings and things like that, but from a medical perspective in Nevada, my first experience was the guy gave me a bunch of edibles, like 6 different packs, and 5 or 6, I don't remember exactly. But when he did, there was no like dosage instructions or just take half or just take one. And in Nevada, I believe the pack size was 200 milligrams per package for medical patients. So hypothetically, I ate all of them in a matter of like 45 minutes,
So you
3
ate 1,000 milligrams.
easily, yeah, at least, yes. And I slept so hard for like 18 hours. And previously, the most I got was 3 hours. And that was like stretching it. I was just uncomfortable all the time. So my husband woke me up and like, he's like, "Are you alive?" Like, I have not moved that long since pre injury. So it was really kind of transformative. And I woke up hung over. I mean, I felt like I had just been hit by a truck with that many milligrams in me. And we had two joints that I had purchased. And he's like, "We're going home later today. You need to make sure that you smoke those. We can't take them home with us on the plane." And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, but I can't smoke right now. I just feel like shit." And he was insistent. So I go outside, I light one of these up, and I mean, it was just brain fogosaurus. And I don't remember the strain, I don't remember what was in it or anything like that. But I can tell you that joint got me up and moving. It made me want to go downstairs for the first time in that vacation and go get something to eat. I mean, was I ready to go gamble and hit the tables? Absolutely not. But this was progress. This was huge, gigantic progress. So I came home to Buffalo thinking that I could get a medical card just like I did in Nevada. Super easy. We had cannabis in New York. And at the end of the day, it was not easy. I did not have one of the qualifying conditions that allowed you to qualify for medical cannabis. So I
You,
shared,
out of all people.
well, we only
Well,
had five, and they literally
oh,
were death diagnoses, like
got it.
wasting syndrome, AIDS, stage four cancer. I mean, they were so severe, like you couldn't. Suicide
Hmm.
was not part of it. PTSD was not part of it. Any kind of mental health diagnosis, not part of those qualifying conditions. So I shared with my physicians that, I had tried cannabis and I was ostracized. I was literally,
Hmm.
as a medical professional who is coming, like, I'm still the same nurse that had that training. I'm still the same nurse that was a colleague, was a coworker. And now I'm regarded as some drug seeker. And it's put in my medical file that I'm a drug seeker, that don't give her narcotics because she just wants to get high. And that's not a diagnosis that one really wants to follow them for the rest of their life. And I was mortified, like just mortified, like drug abuser. When I saw that on my chart, I was like, "Oh my God, they got someone else's diagnosis in my chart." Like, I'm the last person I would call a drug seeker. And yeah, so I am a 100% believer in the plant because after that experience and after all these doctors just literally checked me off as a, druggie and someone that is just trying to get high, I set out to kind of change that perception because I didn't understand cannabis was medicine. If you would have told me your child was using cannabis for seizures, I would have called Child Protective Services on you. It would not have been a discussion. It would have just been a known. Like, you can't give your kid weed.
Right.
Now, I'm 100% for cannabis for children. So, just people need to kind of open their mind more. And until it happened to me, I didn't have an open mind. So, it's really true that you can't judge someone unless you've walked in their shoes.
Wow. So your relationship with the plant was a complete 180, really, and it happened by accident. How did you become the terpene lady?
Well, honestly, Tommy, I became a medical cannabis refugee in Canada. And while I was in Canada, I discovered it was a mobile app and it was based on certificates of analysis or test reports from each of the cultivators in Canada. So I began to learn that it wasn't indica, sativa, or hybrid that had the effects. It was more the individual terpenes and their medicinal properties. I like to think of terpenes almost like essential oils because they smell, they have medical effects. Essential oils do as well. So, using that analogy, it kind of helps people understand that this is where the health benefits come in. It's really not just hocus pocus. And this app with Strain Print allowed me to kind of narrow in what symptoms I was using cannabis for, because that's the first thing you got to figure out. Why do I want to use the plant? What is the feeling or symptom that I'm looking to relieve right now? And I mean, that could change every day. That could change 3 times a day. So, as I mentioned earlier, chronic pain, anxiety, depression, and cognitive function are my 3 big ones. So, I began to experiment with different strains. I've utilized thousands of strains at this point in my journey. And learning what works is a true art. And again, this app was incredibly helpful in guiding me to learn what that consistency was. If you don't journal your experience, it is so hard to know
Yeah.
what works, because Blue Dream from, LP1 to LP10 is totally different chemovar profiles, and that test report is going to be different. For instance, here in New York, we have a brand. It's called Green Thumb Industries, and they make a product called L'Orange. L'Orange is an amazing cultivator for my cognitive function. I literally seek this out. They literally can't make enough for me. I buy 10, 20 packs of these pre rolls at a time because it works so well for me. I like to say it connects my dots. That's why I'm always in polka dots and a red blazer, side note. And the L'Orange just came out. And when I tell you, Tommy, it's different. It is different. It's still the same terps, but that terp percentage is
Mm.
totally different. And so the effects are totally not the same. The taste is not the same. And I mean, I did a research study on this strain, so I'm pretty familiar with it.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's many L'Orange experts to the point that I am,
Yeah.
just because it's done so many great things for me. And I'm hoping the next batch is better.
Yeah.
Like these were the small buds first, so I'm hoping that the larger premium buds come out the way I'm used to. But, again, it's based on a test report.
So you, out of necessity, because you were dealing with st- really, really hard migraines every day, and you found that cannabis helped, you were now pursuing, okay, what is the best strain for me
Mhm.
with
In
those terpene
California,
profiles?
in Las Vegas, and then it came to New York.
Hmm.
And consistent all the way through in different states, which Green Thumb is a multi state operator. So obviously it's the same genetic, but different climates yield different results too.
Yeah.
So again, the last batch of L'Orange and this batch of L'Orange are just different. It's definitely different.
Wow. So you've tried thousands of different.
Thousands.
So is that, and every time you tried it, you journaled? Is that how you built up your knowledge of terpene profiles, the impacts personally as well as documented?
So, truthfully, I no longer am journaling. The Strain Print app doesn't work in the States. So, there's not that data set that matters. But I do still look at COAs, and I do look at the dominant terpenes. And I guess I'm not as science focus driven because I haven't found another strain like L'Orange.
Hmm.
I haven't found one exactly the same.
So how does, if I was a dispensary owner and I have a team of salespeople, bartenders, how does teaching them the foundation of cannabis terpenes improve sales in any way?
By asking the right questions, you can help guide your customer to the experience they're really looking for. So, just asking a few, even, are you using cannabis for effects or to help symptom relief for something that's bothering you, like you can't sleep, or, I'm not asking them to be, medical providers here,
Mhm.
but by asking a few questions, you can really help tailor that experience. Because everyone has different needs and everyone is affected differently. I think when we were talking last time, I sent you to the dispensary seeking.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I wanted to talk about that. So I am a flower person, and I'm coming to you. You're a sales associate, and let's role play. So, what are the questions that you're asking me as a sales associate?
so, Tommy, what brings you in today?
I'm a daytime smoker, so I don't really like to get really high. I smoke to either clean, work out, or think about a problem in a different light, in a different angle. I don't want to come down with a huge hangover. I want to be normal after my experience with cannabis.
Cool. So, just some of the things I pulled out of that is you're looking for something for focus, something that's kind of motivating, but something that doesn't make you wicked high to where you're blazed and you just want to go sit in front of the TV and chill out. You're looking for a functional strain.
Yes.
So, I would focus on something that has limonene, and what limonene is that's that citrusy flair. So if I squirt a lemon in your face, you're immediately going to feel energized. You're going to be like, woo! Well, that's kind of what limonene does with flour. And one of the things, I don't know if you roll joints or if you use a vaporizer, but the lower the temp will give you a more full entourage of an experience if you start low at a lower temperature, because the boiling point is really impactful on how those terpenes will affect you. So, based on that, limonene would be great for you, in my opinion, as well as beta carotene is a really great product because that terpene really helps almost mitigate the high THC. It's an antagonist to THC. So beta carotene is great for inflammation. It's great for, you know, I feel it's sort of a get stuff done. It can make people tired, but that limonene will offset that as well. So, in my opinion, I would focus on something with limonene, beta carotene, and potentially even a little bit of pinene. Pinene can sometimes make people anxious, and we're not trying to do that, but we're trying to get that full entourage and focus. And pinene's also great for focus.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So those are the three terpene profiles that I should seek out, and then really, as somebody that consumes cannabis, document my experience with these terpene profiles and see whether or not it's getting me in the right mood.
Correct. And then you tweak it based on, when you deep dive into beta carotene and you look at all the potential health benefits of it. Maybe too high is not your sweet spot. Maybe you need a little bit lower so it doesn't take as much THC out of that equation. So it's all trial and error. There's no magic. I can say, Tommy, this is for you
Yeah.
because all have different endocannabinoid systems. We all have different body types and enzymes that work differently on all of us.
Would you say terpenes is really the foundational knowledge to build upon?
If I had known about terpenes earlier, I think I could have saved myself a whole lot of work
Got
in
it.
trying different strains. So yes, I feel it's definitely a foundation block. Everyone in the New York industry is super hyper focused on high THC.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that is this much of the equation. And we have a potency tax here in New York. So the higher the THC, the more you pay, the more the retailer pays. Like this isn't just passed on to the consumer, this is literally all the way through the supply chain. So that potency tax really scares some people away. And ultimately, that's not what they're really looking for. They're really looking for the experience of how they feel. I just caution people to stop hyper focusing on THC percentage.
That makes so much sense because if you have really high THC and you had the terpene profile that you mentioned earlier, beta chlorophyll, right?
Beta carophylline.
Beta caryophyllene, it would
Yes,
negate high THC.
yes. Like it still will give you THC,
Yeah.
but it's definitely it's an antagonist to it. So
Yeah.
if you eat peppercorns, if you're too high, it will counteract that high.
If I was a dispensary owner, where do I start? Is there a good program that I can seek out? How do I start training my team on terpenes?
Find someone that knows what they're talking about. That's a big one. Because there's a lot of courses online that just don't even do it justice.
I look at that terpene
Card.
wheel,
Yeah.
right? There's just so many.
So I have a card on my site. It's called the Amazing Flower Terpene Guide, and it literally is by effect, and it ends with the sleepy ones, and it gives you a little summary of what you're looking for. So this pocket guide is literally all over the world, but it's amazing. So if you go to my site, nikkiandtheplant.org, under educational resources, you'll see the guide, and I can customize the guide if you guys like it for your dispensary. So instead of my face as my business card on it, it would be your dispensary. Just FYI.
But where is that? How would you start? How would you approach teaching somebody, giving them, maybe memorizing it is probably not the best approach, but
Memorizing will never work. So how I really dove in was I got raw essential oil terpenes. So this is myrcene. And when you smell it, it literally smells like beer. Like I feel like I'm smelling beer. And it stinks because I'm not a beer fan. But having that example, being able to experience that terpene and then be able to apply that knowledge is what really helps, that hands-on demonstration.
yeah. Yeah,
And
you're right.
then teaching them, you know, so many people come to us from the industry that have never been in the industry, that just they hear cannabis helps and maybe they've smoked a few joints in their time, but they're not connoisseurs. They don't really know the plant. So it's our responsibility to teach them, learn and teach, because we can all build that knowledge so much easier. One of the first books I read that I was able to read with my brain injury was The Medical Cannabis Primer by Dr. Ruth Fisher. The best book I've ever read on cannabis because it was full of charts and graphs and diagrams and pictures, and it allowed you to kind of almost experience the plant in print. And for me, that's what I needed. I mean, I have zillions of books, but they're all text.
Mhm.
And text for me with a brain injury, that was a huge deterrent because I can't read anymore, like books. And this just kind of connected the dots too. That was the foundation, I think, finally, between strain print and the journaling experience, and then reading Ruth Fisher's book. Those were foundational for me. And then I was at a terpology course. True Terpenes is one of the manufacturers of terpenes. And I experienced that. And they brought around the different terpenes. I'm like, oh my God, this is so smart. This makes so much sense. Now I get it. I finally get it. And when it was like lightning went off. It was literally so empowering because now I could actually talk about cannabis without using the word high, with that by
Yeah.
using the experience instead of just let's get jacked up, pals. It was really purposeful, and I consume cannabis with intention. I microdose all day. It's not, when you utilize flower, unfortunately, it's the fastest to affect you, but it's also the fastest to leave you.
Yeah.
And so you need to medicate every 2 or 3 hours because that's as long as it lasts. It's got nothing to do with being addicted or needing it. I mean, can I go longer than 2 or 3 hours? 1000%. I can go days. But why do I want to?
This is fascinating to me personally. I went through a terpene course. I think you were there in Buffalo is where we met. And that was the first time that I had an in-depth experience on how at the end of the day, before my experience with or understanding terpenes, I thought that I was just a sativa person. Dominant strains. Back then, before cannabis was legal where I lived, you would have to call somebody that knew somebody. And the person that I knew, it was really hard for me to find sativa strains back then. It was just very difficult. Nobody grew sativa, and AK-47 was the only sativa strain available. So that's my connection with sativa. And when I found out that it's not sativa or indica, it's terpenes.
Yes.
And these are the terpenes that you should look for in your example of lemonine and how lemons make you feel is
Energized. Yeah.
energetic, and it's just correlated. Terpenes are everywhere.
Yes, they are. And they're sensitive to light, heat, air, so that strain that when you first smell it out of the bag, it's super terpy. But
Hmm.
if you left that bag open, it's
Yeah,
going to lose its terpiness because the air gets to it.
yeah. So does it make sense about, okay, for one, I'm thinking that dispensary owners, if you guys are interested in teaching the foundation of cannabis, the terpenes, probably find a course or find a professional that can organize it in a way where people can understand. I would imagine that there's a lot of terpenes that are similar in effect.
There are.
People, it's just a lot easier to group things together, and these are the effects, and you don't have to remember, I don't know how many terpenes there are, but quite a
There's
few.
over 100, like well over.
Yeah,
And
that's
more
number
are
one.
being discovered every day. And as more testings developed, they learn more about it.
But you're in a unique position because you sell cannabis to dispensaries and you have a lot of experience helping sales associates improve their sales stats just by knowledge. So it's for me sales because I it's a win-win. If you can help somebody get cannabis, get a strain that really truly helps them get into the mood that they want to be in, they're going to be your customer forever. They're
Forever.
not, yeah, they're going to be not only your customer, you're going to be friends.
Friends.
I've had experiences going into a dispensary and the person on the other side didn't know what they were talking about. And
Every
it's
day of my
just,
life. I know all
you,
about
you
it.
never go back.
But I have to go back
Oh,
as a salesperson.
yeah. So, how can a sales associate upsell? Or what does that look like? What does actual good sales training look like?
Put yourself in the buyer's position. So once you've asked some key questions like what effect are you looking for? And they tell you. And now you've kind of got an idea of those terpenes that you're kind of focusing on. The best thing you can do is almost layer or stack the dosing. Someone that consumes an edible, that's going to last in their system a lot longer than smoking a joint. Someone that vaporizes that flower compared to smoking a joint, it's going to be a different effect because you're going to be able to experience all the terpenes, and so you might not need to medicate as quickly. So, understanding your consumer's preference is key. By offering a topical, by offering a vape that can be utilized in between those times when it's not convenient to smoke a joint. That's really key. By using an edible first thing in the morning, but you're waking up with severe head pain and you're literally like, I'm going to die, it's going to take potentially 30 minutes to an hour and a half before that edible is able to relieve your pain. So, what do you do first? You smoke. You either vape, smoke, or even use a nano emulsified product that can absorb faster than a regular edible. So by stacking that dosing, take that edible first thing in the morning, maybe use a vape or smoke in between, it's going to upsell your cart, but it's also going to give that customer longer lasting relief. When they're at work, there's certain products that won't make them as high. Utilizing a ratio product with more CBD to THC might be the answer. So understanding what they do during the day is important. Like the last thing you want to do is give someone, something ripping and immersing and then tell them to go work their forklift job. you
Yeah.
know, Probably not the best idea unless they're an experienced consumer and know how their body's going to react. But I think something that's often missing is, well, you want something uplifting now, but do you have something to help you sleep tonight? If I'm boosting you up during the day, do you need something to help, settle you down at night? Are you suffering from anxiety, from driving in the city of New York, because the traffic's hell? Can I recommend, a CBD ratio product or something like that? So trying to, instead of the guy just coming in for that 5 pack of joints or that one joint, trying to understand their needs and, you know, upsell them, but not really sell them anything, just kind of recommend different products that might be beneficial. That's going to help the whole sales process. That's going to show that you've taken an interest in their experience and you want to give them the best products that are going to last. So that's one of the things that I feel is missing a lot in a
Mm.
lot of the bud tender trainings I do. When I worked for an edible company, we had products sunrise to sunset. So I sold multiple products to that same customer so they could have that experience from sunrise to sunset. And now I sell for a adult use slash medical company, and we have flower, which I'm super pumped about, and vape, so that you know I also have powders and different products as well. But it's just really cool to be in the flower area because terpenes, if you ingest them, are going to have different effects than if you inhale them. So when they are trying to lump the effects into the same category, it's a definite mechanism of action. It's totally different.
Yeah.
So that's important to understand.
That's actually, I've learned something new here. So when I listen to you talk, I listen to how we can categorize our knowledge base, right? So one is terpenes, just understanding terpene profiles and maybe really bucketing them into different buckets: energy, focus, how does it impact your mood? The way that you ingest cannabis impacts how potent it is and how long it stays in your system and how long it takes to come into effect. So
Correct.
there's different ways that you've mentioned. But also you've mentioned that your understanding of terpenes needs to change in how it's consumed as well.
Yes.
So can you give me that example? Let's say I'm taking limonene or whatever terpene that you want to use. If I'm smoking it, vaping it, and ingesting it in edible, how they're different?
So the science is there. I just know it's different. Full transparency. It's not probably the best question that I can answer with
Mm.
full certainty. But I can tell you, just based on smelling, inhaling versus ingesting, going through the whole first pass digestion, is definitely going to have different effects.
No, it's okay. It's transparency is always the best. And from my experience with just ingesting it, and I feel like this is probably everybody's too, is the high is 10 times more intense.
Oh, yeah, for
And
sure. But it's
it's
not
going,
the terpene that's doing that. That's the
yeah, it's going,
THC and the CBD because those are fat soluble and they're binding to whatever you're eating. So
yeah,
the higher the fat content in your meal, the more that edible is going to take hold on you.
yeah,
A lot of people don't understand that either. It's not necessarily so that edible that got you super high the one time and then the next time you didn't feel anything. Go back to what you ate. And
yeah,
so if you had pizza and wings before you took the edible, it probably hit you a lot harder than if you took it on an empty stomach.
That's fascinating. And I've never had a really good experience with edibles ever
Let
because,
slow and go slow, pal. That's what it's
yeah,
all about.
it's also because of why I consume. I
Right.
feel like I'm not in it for 10 times more impact.
But with the minor cannabinoids, ingesting those will give you the effects you're looking for. So, like, Grune has CBN, which is great for nighttime,
Hmm.
and that'll help you fall asleep. And then they have one that's higher CBN with lower THC that will keep you asleep because that introduces REM sleep. So that's really helpful for those people that are insomniacs. CBG, when you eat it, it's like get up and go. And then
Oh, wow.
CBC, cognitive function. Like, so I say cognitive function, and that really helps with focus. And they have a product with Grune that had CBC and CBG, so the get up and go and the cognitive function and the THC. So that entourage effect works really well for some people for focus. I would call that gummy Adderall.
Wow. And how high is the THC levels on that? And do you feel high taking that?
Again, it depends on your system
Hmm.
and what you eat. So there are people that took it every day and it just helped get them up and go and helped them focus. And then several hours later, they'd take another because they weren't smokers. They prefer that discretion and ability to eat the gummy. But everyone's different. So, you know, my husband is super sensitive to THC and he sees unicorns and rainbows, which I'll never understand. But now I've got him on a regimen of taking CBD at night with THC, and he's doing fine. But it took a long time to get in his system to where it was the right dose.
Are there any flowers with CBG and
Yes,
are the
but it's not
effects?
as prevalent. You've got to like look at that COA and see.
Yeah,
Like they're bred specifically for those minor cannabinoids.
got it.
We'd have fun, Tommy. Well,
We
next
would.
time you come to Toronto or something, we can definitely have school.
Yeah, I do.
We'll go to a dispensary and I'll quiz them and we'll get you what you need.
I am, if there's one thing that I'm addicted to, it's productivity. I just want to be productive. I
I
want
feel
to have the energy and the motivation and the drive and make sure that my dopamine levels are where it should be. But I feel as though cannabis can, it's a huge enhancer for me when I need it, if that makes sense.
yeah, totally. It enhances my life. You know, if I hadn't smoked my original orange, not the new stuff, before our talk, I wouldn't have been as on, you know, and this just kind of is exciting to me. I love
Mhm.
talking terps. I love talking about the plant. You know, this is where my jam is.
One thing I want to talk to you about is how can a dispensary owner increase traffic to customers?
So that's a tricky one because as the market becomes more saturated, especially in New York, we have pockets of massive dispensaries around. How do you pull that traffic to yours versus the guy down the street? I can't stand regular pop ups, like the traditional pop up where the brand shows up, brings unmedicated samples, brings some swag. You know, to me, those are the biggest waste of time for the brand and the dispensary in reality. I mean, the dispensary's hoping just that this brand is going to help bring traffic in. They might advertise it on their social media once or twice, but in reality, all I'm doing as a pop up is taking someone else's sale that was already coming into your dispensary to my brand. Like, that's in reality, that's all that you're doing. So, how can we provide value to the public to want them to come to that dispensary? One of the things I like to do is just ask Nikki. Come have Cannabis 101 with Nikki and let's experience what terpenes are. Let's have coffee at 9 a.m. before the dispensary opens and, you know, have the dispensary provide the donuts and coffee and just have a casual monthly or bi-weekly chat or something with someone that's knowledgeable, with someone that can speak to those canna curious. You need to attract the people that are questioning,
Yeah.
is it safe? Can I come there? Am I going
So
to get arrested? you know?
if I was a dispensary owner in a geographical area, for example, that had a lot of moms,
Yeah,
or actually women in their mid
35
40s,
up.
what would be the talk with these women?
Wine versus weed. Like, let's talk about how cannabis can be more effective for you than wine, how to be a better mom with
Hmm.
cannabis, removing that stigma and that, you know, taboo of, oh, what's the difference if a mom's popping Xanax or if a mom's smoking a joint? I mean, this judgment of a pill is better than a plant is kind of a problem to me. So, trying to remove that stigma, trying to increase that awareness, posting the event, that you're
Mhm.
having at beauty stores, at salons, at workout places, places where these moms are going to frequent.
Mhm.
Grocery store probably will frown on it, but anything you can do in community papers for advertising. The older people, i.e., those over 45, 50, they still look at that paper. Whereas, you know, Tommy, I don't see you ever looking at a penny saver. I see you going online to Craigslist or wherever, to find whatever you're looking for. But my generation and above, no, we don't want tech. We want something to hold. We want something paper.
Mhm.
That's why my guide never gets thrown out because they always want to keep it. And this is something that can literally be in your dispensary that you just give to your customers, your bud tenders. I mean, at the very least, your bud tenders should have it. I can even make signs of it, that are this whole thing right on the wall so that it's easy to reference. Education is key. Removing the stigma is key. And trying to really home in on what those consumers need so you can be that value add, I think is critically important.
Yeah, the general public, not even the general public, just in general, CBG, CBN, terpenes,
You see?
CBC, yeah, they all sound like news stations to me.
Well, it is news, but it's not necessarily a station. But yeah, it's a thing. It's really great. And I just hope more people take the time to learn about the plant. And I hope dispensary owners find their niche and can really do something different to attract traffic and bring new consumers because that's how the industry is going to keep growing. Not
Hmm.
by doing a stupid pop up for 3 hours that you have a brand there that just stands there and talks to your customers, gives them some swag. But at the end of the day, most likely, usually there's a promo. So all I'm doing is stealing from another brand. That person was already coming through that door no matter what.
So if a dispensary owner wanted to reach out to you to help train their team, are you available?
I
And
mean, I do some consulting, I do some training, everything is negotiable. I can help in a lot of different ways. But yeah, I work for Fluent full time, so that obviously is my focus. But evenings and weekends when I'm not working, there is availability for that kind of thing for sure.
that's awesome. The first training that I had about terpenes really blew me away because that changed my relationship with the plant in a way that
Ooh,
I didn't think would.
here in Vancouver.
I
Yeah.
thought I was experienced with cannabis and I
Right.
thought I knew what I needed to know, but there was just a layer there that I had no idea. And it was really eye-opening for me. So I'm thinking about selling. being in the position where now you're selling the plant, you're advising people what they should look into based on the mood that they want to get in. And I feel as though if you don't understand terpenes, just what you spoke about, the effects of how you ingest it in your body, as well as the other cannabinoids that is, in my opinion, fairly new to the game. This
Yeah,
is,
I mean, it's definitely not as well known, and it's definitely becoming more and more discussed and talked about and researched for sure.
so if I was actually, before I let you go, this happens a lot, and you mentioned in New York. If I was a customer and I'm coming in and you're asking me, what do you want? And I'm saying, hey, give me the strain that has the highest THC content for the lowest price. You,
Most likely, it's probably going to be just that because most people that come in with that mentality, they're not necessarily like
mm,
I see it every day, you know, as
yeah,
I'm in different dispensaries. They come in, what's the highest THC? What's going to get me the most effed up? You know, and literally that's what they give him because dude's running in fast. He's not even there to talk to you.
yeah,
So, are you going to get every single person with education? No. But maybe the next time they come in and they're more walking around or whatever, you can actually engage and talk to them.
yeah.
But at the end of the day, there are going to be people that just think they know what they want and they know everything, and you're not going to change their opinion. And that's okay. But for those people that really do want to know, having this knowledge is going to be invaluable for them.
I really liked your approach on looking at not only the mood that somebody wants to get in, but throughout the day. So for me, I don't have a really hard time falling asleep, but sometimes when I wake up 2 to 3 hours after I fell asleep, I have a hard time getting back to sleep.
CBN's your best friend. Let me just tell you, get your butt to the store and find you some CBN. And I know Groom has pearls in Canada. So Wild has products that have CBN.
So CBN is cap.
CBN is your bestie for nighttime.
Wow, that's
Big
interesting. And it helps fall
C.
asleep and stay asleep too. And
Yep.
why?
Just how it works on the body. It's just that interaction.
Wow. And does it usually come with a ratio with THC for the full,
Mhm. Because
full?
you need a little THC to be that helper.
Got it.
It really
May
does.
not,
I
but
mean,
that's not
it's
what it's
good
designed
for
for.
your body, but traditionally, it's not designed to get you high.
How often do these types of conversations happen in a dispensary? Or people go to a dispensary generally for, I grew up to get high, right?
Mhm.
You
Teach
go
that
there
high.
because you want to smoke weed and you
Yeah.
want to get high. What is the, on average, what is the percentage, in your opinion, of sales of people that they're going in there really to enhance their life?
I would say it's a 60-40 blend.
Oh, wow.
60% are looking more for the enhance their life and have questions,
Hmm.
especially in New York because it's so new, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's getting more popular. And one thing, you know, we still have a medical program in New York, and we have way fewer medical dispensaries than we do adult use. But for someone that's on a lot of pharmaceuticals, I always recommend they get a medical card and get a consult with
Yeah.
a medical dispensary to be able to make sure what they're using isn't going to counteract their
Yeah.
blood thinner medication or their glaucoma medication because cannabis is incredibly safe, but it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
It's not for certain people that are predisposed to certain mental health conditions. You know, they say people with Alzheimer's shouldn't use THC. I think that's total BS. But at the same time, depending on what medications they're taking to maintain that, you know, I'm not a doctor, I'm a nurse, but do I
Hmm.
know every contraindication for THC and CBD and everything? Absolutely not. But the pharmacists in the New York State medical program do. So I always recommend someone with a, you know, 2, 3, 4, 10 medications, definitely get advice from a pharmacist in the medical program or from their physician, because I don't want to kill them. I don't want anyone
Yeah.
to have a bad effect.
No, that's a really good point. Do you think that there's an untapped market for people that generally are not looking to get high, but they're just looking to enhance their life? So it could be that they don't even know, women that are going through menopause, for example,
Oh,
or
yeah, totally.
just there's different stages of your life. I'm thinking about my parents.
Yes, your parents would love the plant now, but they have to get past that stigma
Yeah.
that they grew up with. And then you know, Canada is just different, though. I mean, so it's a whole different vibe there, but it's not as ingrained as cannabis is horrible.
We didn't go through the Reagan era of,
Yeah, you didn't have Reagan. So
yeah.
that's a huge difference. But, cannabis was recognized as medicine in Canada long before
Mhm.
here. So you guys had a very robust medical program for a long time. So not so much anymore because rec again has dominated the focus.
That's a really untapped market. I'm always thinking to myself, if I was a dispensary owner, and so you have your regular customers that come in, right?
Hmm.
People that smoke cannabis, they have a relationship with the plant already. How do you get more traffic in without cannibalizing the existing market?
Right.
And really, that is
That
expanding
education.
the
It's that
education piece
education
too.
piece. It's that community engagement. It's that reaching out to, retirement communities.
We're Thank you for going over. I know that
Absolutely.
we're over time, and before I let you go, how can our listeners find you?
So I'm very searchable. I'm on all kinds of podcasts and educational things. I'm on all social media as Nikki Lawley, as well as Nikki and The Plant. My website is nikkiandtheplant.org.
Awesome. And we'll drop your handle in the description to the pod. Thank you so much for
Awesome.
joining us today.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening to the KayaCast podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast in your favorite podcast app or visit our website to access the full archive of episodes from the show.